Hi there again, it's Betsy Datiri here. I'm just here to give you a few little tips as you navigate your way through this very weird season with your kids and young people. There's a word called self-regulation that is bandied around an awful lot when it comes to kids and mental health and healthy living. And really, self-regulation is something that we love kids and young people to have. In fact, we love to have it ourselves. And it's when you feel a sense of overwhelming emotion, or you feel some stuff, some big, strong feelings, and actually you're able to process that, make sense of that, and act appropriately and express those emotions appropriately in the right context. And so a classic example would be that a kid who, I don't know, let's say a primary school child would be able to recognize the difference between the behavior that's normal for outside playtime compared to the behavior that's expected in assembly, compared to behavior that's expected in a PE class, compared to behavior expected in a party. And a self-regulated child is able to regulate their emotions and feelings and experiences to be appropriate in their behavior in those different kind of settings. What we recognize is many kids are not able to self-regulate. They are emotionally reactive. They're emotionally volatile. They have unexpected behaviors. And as parents, as adults, as teachers, as professionals working with kids, very often that can be really problematic. It can be quite off-putting for us. It can be traumatizing for us. It can be terrifying for us as they suddenly have these big behaviors that seem explosive. And so what we need to do is help kids become a little bit more able to self-regulate. I wish it was a quick little thing that you can do with kids, but actually self-regulation comes from something called co-regulation. And co-regulation is an adult that the child feels safe with repetitively doing different behaviors with the child that rewire their brain so that it leads them to be self-regulated. So, for example, if a child aged 2, because a child aged, particularly between 1 and about 4 is usually quite dysregulated, and that's normal. It's a part of child development stages. They're unable to be self-regulated, and it's being taught at those ages usually. And it should be being taught in those ages by the primary caregiver or a safe adult who's there consistently, repetitively helping them be able to process and make sense of what they're feeling. So, for example, if you picture a 2-year-old at a preschool and that 2-year-old is there and they're going, I want that toy, I want that toy, I want that toy. If an adult doesn't come along and help them at that point, they will escalate their behavior and they will become aggressive and angry and more volatile. And then the next time they want a toy, they'll do the same, and it will just carry on. And the bigger they get, the harder that is, because the more strong they are. But when, as a safe adult or a primary caregiver, when they're tiny weeny, they're around 2, they're around 18 months, all the way up to about 4, if we're able to consistently get right down onto their level and go, oh, that looks like you really badly want that toy. So we're validating their emotion. If we're able to say, ooh, so we're showing it in our face, we're showing it in our body language that we're not frightened, we're not overwhelmed by their behavior, but we recognize that these kids, oh, you're feeling a really big thing right now. That seems like it's massive. Oh, I'm wondering if, at that point, if we can offer them a distraction, if we can offer them another alternative possibility. What happens is the child internalizes it. They're able to learn how to do that long term. So then when they're at preschool and they're with other children and they go, but I want it, I want it, I want it. Normal behavior. But then something should pop in them as they go, oh, I guess I could go and find something else. And they can only do that if they've had so much repetition from a primary caregiver who has helped them internalize that it's okay to feel these big, strong feelings, but there's another way of actually dealing with it. But they have to have the emotion validated, but then moved on. That's how co-regulation occurs, and it occurs continually as a child cries, as the child is fed up. And at the moment, many of our kids are going to be going, it's not fair, I want to go and see my friends, I'm lonely, I'm bored. And what we need to do as parents is go, fair enough. This is really tough, isn't it? And actually, as kids, you should be being with your friends. This isn't right for you. And as we're empathetic towards them, and as we validate those feelings, they should feel more of a connection with us. And actually that just sort of dilutes and dissolves some of that pent-up frustration and anger. Empathy is key, and I'll do a bit more on empathy next time, but that's a tiny introduction into how we help a child self-regulate. Starts with co-regulation, repetitive, nurturing, caring, consistent co-regulation, validating the emotion, giving it some language, offering some alternatives. I hope that helps you. Well done for all you're doing.